Tine and the Faraway Mountain. In Ikali, in the Mishmi hills of Arunachal Pradesh, young Tine Meena heard a wondrous call from the mountains in the distance. She was drawn to it, a sound only she could hear. She heard it while she climbed trees. She heard it when she ran through the jungle. She heard it when she spent long days lying under the sun. Whooshoo, the sound went, whooshoo. Ah, Tine would smile. What a wonderful life. But one day, her family moved out of Ikali to the closest big town, Rowing. Tine's world turned upside down. There was a school in Rowing, but the whooshoo had been louder in Ikali. Tine wanted to return to her mountains again. So she trudged to school every day for 10 years, glancing wistfully at the mountains and the horizon. When she finally finished her schooling, Tine immediately applied to be a porter for army expeditions in the mountains. She would have to carry heavy loads and march over long distances. But women were not allowed to be porters in those days. Tine did not let that stop her. She dressed as a boy and started to work, carrying nearly 25 kilos of luggage every day. A whole week passed before everyone realized that she was a girl disguised as a boy. The officers scolded Tine for breaking the rules, but they knew that Tine knew the round better than anyone else. So they allowed her to continue working. Her act would later help lift the ban on female porters. In the army, Tine worked on many expeditions and soon became a coordinator. It was on one of her expeditions as a coordinator that she met Mr. Dr. Romeo Mite. At that time, Dr. Mite was working to promote adventure sports in Arunachal Pradesh and immediately identified Tine's talent. "You're a naturally gifted climber," he told her. "You have the strength and determination. Now all you need is technique." Dr. Mite became Tine's mentor and she began her training as a mountain climber. The distant mountains still called her. A film about the first climb of Mount Everest, whooshoo, became a roar now, and climbing Mount Everest became her dream. After months of preparations, Tine finally reached the Everest base camp in Nepal. It was bitterly cold and the air was thin. Tine trained there for a few days to get accustomed to the harsh weather and then began her climb. The climb was difficult. It was divided into 4 sections so that the climbers could take a rest at different camping points while journeying to the top of the mountain. But by the time Tine and her companion Chering Sherpa reached the second camp, the weather had grown worse. "Do you want to go ahead?" Chering asked. "I don't think I will get another chance to do this," Tine replied. She could hear the musical whooshoo growing louder and louder. It almost hypnotized her. Tine and Chering somehow managed to reach their final camp. Just as they were about to take a rest, the stormy wind blew their tent and supplies away. They had to spend the night in one borrowed tent, and when they set off for the final climb the next day, all Tine and Chering had was a packet of noodles. "Let's share half of it," Chering suggested. Tine nodded her head, smiling determinedly. "If we make it alive, we will eat the other half." Tine nodded her head, smiling determinedly. But Tine could only hear the magical tune of "If we make it alive, we will eat the other half." So they pushed fearlessly ahead. The higher they continued to climb, to the top, the wind grew. For every 2 steps they took, it sent them reeling back a step. It shrieked and howled, whispering dread into their ears and urging them to return. Finally, at 10:45 a.m. on 9 May 2011, Tine's efforts were rewarded. She summited Mount Everest, the highest mountain in the world, the first woman from the northeast of India to have done so. She had found her faraway mountain and was one with the sound that had called her all her life.